Chris, we're in the throes of what may be a $20 billion bet here in the upfront season. How's it going so far, and who's winning?
I'd like to think that, for the most part, we're winning on the buy side. But yeah, we're in the midst of it right now, and it's a marketplace with more moving parts than ever, you might say. Dollars shifting in many ways away from linear TV. A nice amount of growth on the digital side. I don't think that we're the only agency holding company that's seeing that, so very encouraged by that. But there is, a significant amount of pressure in certain areas, mostly due to the supply dynamics in linear television and fragmented viewership, combined with, some increased spending from advertisers that rely heavily on television. Some of the more older-skewing brands and companies out there with target demographics that, for many of them, television is still really the best place, the most fertile hunting ground, if you will.
So this is not your first rodeo in the upfront. Is this like nothing you've ever seen, or is this 5% different from what you've always seen?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's all that different from a marketplace that's reflective of a relatively healthy economic backdrop. When you look at what's going on out there, you've got consumer-facing companies that have decent business results right now, so that money goes back into advertising in many ways and then manifests itself in consistent and sometimes growing media budgets. So it's, I think in general terms, just reflective of the state of the economy more than anything else.
All right. We've talked a lot today about lower commercial loads and the new ad units, the smaller pods, the rest of this.
Yeah.
Obviously, as economics goes, you have less supply, you have to charge more for it.
Right.
Are those new units worth what they're charging, what they're asking for?
Well, time will tell. Two of these situations are relatively new. There has been some experience in some other areas with reduced commercial load that we've participated in. We're in favor of that. We're in favor of making. I think some of the previous panelists talked about the consumer experience, the viewing experience of linear television becoming a little bit more like the online and digitally delivered experience. So that requires reduction in commercial load. But yeah, when you're restricting supply, there are going to be issues, pricing issues, and we get that. The astute buyer tries to pay the lower price, and we're making efforts in that regard. But I don't know that we are there yet in terms of finding that price-value relationship for at least the two that are being discussed right now.
Do you think we'll get there next year?
I think what will happen is we'll see how these do, and whether there'll be more or less of it next year will be interesting. Not to get too far into this, but our hope is that over time, if the expectation is that the viewing experience is better, more people will interact with the programming, ratings would ultimately increase. I mean, that's the hope, is that if you improve the experience, you're going to ultimately, further down the road, build back supply simply by higher ratings of at least live or slightly delayed commercial television. And so that's sort of the holy grail there.
I'm reminded of sort of the Princess and the Pea, this idea that we reduce the commercial load by 5%. Will anyone notice? Right? Who is this ultra-sensitive viewer who goes, my God, watching TV live is so much better now because I have one fewer ad per hour?
Yeah, well, it should be more than one fewer ad. I get that. I think the idea of believe the NBCU idea is to sort of make that first commercial pod exist with an awful lot of content before it and sort of isolated in some way. The idea of the Fox example, where you've got maybe just two commercial positions in those pods and those shows, I think it'll be noticeable. I thought, look, also some of the things that happen though are outside the control of the national advertising model, right? You've got affiliates, you've got promotional time. You've got a lot of other clutter besides national advertising. But hopefully these examples will be noticeable. But time will tell.
Yeah. And so last year, it was OpenAP was announced with great fanfare with Fox and Viacom and Turner, and this year NBCU jumped on board as well. Can you briefly explain what OpenAP is, and is it a good thing?
Yeah, so OpenAP is sort of common ground, if you will, for the optimization systems, the advanced targeting that some of the major, media owners, TV-based media owners, have in place now. Sort of to create a common language, if you will, of the targets that many of us are seeking in this new sort of paradigm. I think it's a good thing. I think if you can bring standardization to anything that is not standardized, in general, you create more interchangeability in the marketplace and basically a more level playing field, and you allow the advertiser to make better decisions and selections. However, these things are still limited to just the companies that are participating in OpenAP. And then to some degree, even though there's commonality in the metrics, you're still, as an advertiser, as an agency servicing an advertiser, forced to optimize within just their set of offerings. And it's not the completely fluid situation that we'd like to see. It's, I think, incumbent on most of us now on the buy side to have some optimization that we'll keep proprietary to ourselves. And we've been doing that for a long time. We're advancing those efforts now. But I think that the OpenAP, if nothing else, proves that this is something that needs to be done in linear television, and hopefully allows the interaction to be modernized, if you will, with television advertising.
While still maintaining that data edge that we heard about on an earlier panel.
Yes.
So finally, Chris, the upfronts are considered, or as seen from the outside, as a sort of bare knuckle, late night negotiation, flex against flex, leverage against leverage. Have there been any moments so far this season where there's something innovative, something sparks that makes you feel that humanity is okay?
Gosh, that's an interesting one. I think humanity's okay, and I hope that one of the things that I look back to the earlier part of my career, and I was thinking about Lyle's comments just now, and there was definitely more of a sort of a threat on both sides during the upfront that doesn't necessarily happen anymore. I think the negotiations, they can be just as intense as they always were, but there's not it's not going to be there in the morning mentality that there once was. Either the money's not going to be there or the deal's not going to be there. I think a lot of us will sort of just try and work through these and get things done, and maybe the hours are pretty long, but there's more of a sense of fair play, I think, nowadays than there was in the earlier times. There's certainly more options out there for the buyers. There's the consideration set for us is much broader. 15–20% of our money is now going to non-linear based media owners. So because of all of that, the conversations, I think, while not really all that innovative across the board, are sort of at a higher level and a little more dignified than they once were.
All right, so there's hope for us yet.
Yes.
Chris, thank you so much for your expertise. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.